Okay, so you guys might all be wondering why on earth this girl has a giant 15 up on the screen, or maybe why on earth she's wearing all black when it's like 5 million degrees outside. Well, in the context, it might be a little bit weird. However, if you saw somebody in the hallway dressed completely like this, or maybe out in the street, you might wonder, why on earth does she look like that? She looks like an outcast. She looks unfriendly, unkind, somebody you might not want to approach. But, I mean, within another 15 seconds, you can easily just let's say about 15 seconds, depending on how graceful you are. It really just depends. But okay, I'm just gonna hold it, sorry. Okay. All right, so basically I was not talking about outfits. What I was talking about is when you have a mental disorder, a lot of people just see on the outside. A lot of people think that depressed people are lazy because they don't go out. A lot of people think that schizophrenics are crazy because they talk to themselves. A lot of people think that when you have a mental disorder, you're all around just a little bit weird. So like Jennifer Lawrence had once said, if you have asthma, you go to the doctors, you get an inhaler. If you have diabetes, you get a pump, you get insulin put in your body. It's not really a big deal. However, when you have a mental disorder, there's this huge stigma that it's really all in your head, that you're not going to go to the doctors because people are going to judge you all the time, no matter what. So let's start at the beginning. What even is a mental disorder? If there's this huge stigma, then there has to be this problem behind it, right? So, okay, let's give an example. So let's say that you're like a middle-aged mom, right? Okay, like, so your name's Diane, whatever, you have like 3 kids. Okay, so you don't have a lot of free time, but when you do, you're obsessed with your garden, okay? You love your garden, it's your prized possession, you just love it. So let's say day 1, you come home, you're really excited, you see your garden, you're so excited, and then all of a sudden there's this little sprout in the middle, this dingy little yellow weed. So what do? You rip it out. Okay, great. So day 2, you come back, you're really excited, you're like, let me water my plants, should be pretty now, tidy, perfect, organized. You go back out, you're suddenly like, what? Instead of 1 little sprout, there's suddenly 4, a little crew, a crowd, whatever, there's tiny, whatever. So what do? You do what you think is best, you cover it with a chair. Great, so now like day 5 or 6, a couple days later, your neighbor's like, hey, you know, Diane, like I would love to see your garden, like I really want to start my own. So, you know, you're walking out, like you're sidestepping everything, you're so excited, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is what you do, like blah, 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 blah. And suddenly, there's not a couple little sprouts anymore. Suddenly your whole garden is overflowing with these monstrous weeds, and suddenly they're not weeds anymore. They're just taking over your entire life, your garden, and suddenly you're leaning over, you're grabbing that chair that was covering just a couple of sprouts the other day. Now they're only covering about 1/10 of the disaster that's going on. You're grabbing it, you're hyperventilating, you don't know what's going on, and your neighbor is suddenly like, girl, you just wasted all my time. She takes a phone call, she's out of there, unimpressed, doesn't offer any advice, and just leaves. And so you're standing there, your whole life is taken from you, that's all that you had. That was everything that you wanted, and it's just gone because you didn't know that there was just a spray that you could have put on there at the very beginning. You didn't know that you could prevent this problem from becoming a huge problem. You didn't know that if you just put a Band-Aid on a little wound at the very beginning, you wouldn't need stitches later down the road. Because nobody told you these things. Just like with mental disorders, nobody informs you that you can get a counselor before it becomes a huge issue. Nobody knows that suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death between Americans ages 15 to 24 years old. Because nobody tells us these things. So if you're standing in a crowded room, let's say with age 13, 18 years old, and you just do a quick little turn and look at everybody around you, within every 5 people, there's 1 person that might have a severe mental disorder at some point during their life. Things that people don't really know, because nobody's ever informed of these things. Okay, this was supposed to be a video of Grace. I don't know if it's happening. Yep.
I struggled with self-harm for a while, a long time, and it got really tough. And it's not that I wanted to hurt myself and stuff like that. It's just I wanted to feel something other than not happy. You know what I mean? So it was definitely a coping mechanism, not a healthy one. There's so many healthy coping mechanisms, but I just didn't know them at the time, and that's why therapy helped me with that.
Like I said before, suicide is the second leading cause of death in Americans ages 15 to 24, and that's because there's this huge stigma that instead of talking about mental illnesses and asking for help, or simply even talking to a friend that might listen, instead people just decide to whisper about it, and they're just shoving this huge problem under a rug when there are really lives at stake. It's important also to realize that mental illnesses do not discriminate. It doesn't matter your color, your religion, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter your gender, because they will attack anybody who's willing to give in, and it'll attack the ignorant because people don't understand that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to ask before this problem becomes something huge and deadly. And then here's another video of Grace.
Or how do you think that it would have played out differently if somebody actually did educate you on mental illnesses or how to even prevent them?
I definitely would have been in a better place earlier than my senior year of high school, because all through high school it was really tough for me to go through having mental illness on top of high school in general.
Okay, exactly like what she said, it is really hard to balance these things in high school, especially when you don't know that people are willing to listen, and especially if you don't want to see a psychologist. Nobody really tells you that some of your friends might listen. Like, people like me and Grace would love to just listen and help everybody that we can, and that's why we made these videos. Okay, in order to stop the stigma, the most important one that I made really large is to see the person and not the illness, because more often than people should, we look at people and if we know that they're schizophrenic, we think, oh, yeah, they have schizophrenia, they're crazy. It's not like, oh, well, actually, they went to war and now they can't. Now they have crazy PTSD and now they ended up having schizophrenia because they didn't receive help and nobody offered it to them. And nobody told them that it's okay to have these things, because a lot of people actually are mentally ill. And that it's the same thing as a physical illness. You just need to see a doctor and get help. So this is the PSA picture that me and my friend Abby took. And basically it's to show mental illness in a nutshell. And more often than not, when people have depression, they often show that they're happy, and this is why we should not be rude to the people that we're around, or why we should be more caring than not, because we don't know who's struggling.
It may seem like, oh, it's just a teenage problem, but then the mental illness itself blows it out of proportion, so that it's a totally bigger thing. Whether it's a small problem or not, it's always going to be a big problem with mental illness.
Exactly.
Because you can't think any other way.
Exactly.
Okay, so in the end, me and Grace decided to make a whole video that kind of informs people about mental illnesses with her experience and then along with what I had to say. And basically the most important thing that you can do is listen and learn before you judge people, because more often than not, what you see on the outside is not what's really on the inside. And if you saw me in all black clothes and then you saw me like this, you would think something totally different, because that's just what we do. We judge people instantly from what we see, and we don't realize that people could actually be hurting. So here are some of the suicide hotline numbers. It's important to speak up and reach out, and if you know that something is wrong, you need to find the courage to speak up about it, because if I didn't have Grace, I wouldn't have the courage to speak up about this, and you never know, maybe somebody like her will come into your life and give you the courage to speak out about any problem that you know is a big one, because if not, we can't speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves, and if not, there's lives on the line, and we need to speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves.